I don't know. The reality is, as a country, we need to get the buy-in of all these people. We need this exchange program to go and get that 3 billion to create the space so that government can again go into the market and go and borrow and offset our debts. So it's not as if that anything is going to go off very soon. Remember, in the last report by the Bank of Ghana, the debt has gone up. It's now 575 billion Ghana cedis. Forget about all the communication that is ongoing. September, October, we had some forex losses as a result of that. We've had an increase of over 100 billion. But the reality is, even though that is accountable, many of these bonds also have been traded locally. And that's debt. Additionally, within the period, people have bought treasury bills, etc., within the period, and that's debt. So, but we'll see how it goes.
But at least we know that they've extended the deadline further for the domestic debt exchange program. It's expired. The initial date was supposed to be yesterday, so that's at 4 p.m. It expired, and we're told that it's been extended further to February 7, 2023. And this is also based on the agreement that was reached with the Ghana Association of Banks, the Ghana Insurance Association, and the Ghana Securities Industry Association. So as far as we're concerned, these institutions have agreed to sign on to the domestic debt exchange program. It's the individual bondholders, it's the pensioners who are saying that we will not accept this. So a few changes have been made as well to this situation. And we're told that now, instead of the 10 years of having to wait for your bond maturity to collect all your money, now they're saying it's been reduced to 5 years. So let's take a look at the deadline dates. The first deadline was given on December 19, 2022. Then it was extended to December 30, 2022, and then to January 16, 2023. Now, from December 30, we had the labor unions agitate and say that we will not accept that our monies are touched, and so you have to exempt us. So they were exempted for some reason, and interestingly, the individual bondholders were rather the ones who were, replaced with these labor unions. Initially, the individual bondholders, we all know, were not supposed to be part of the domestic debt exchange program, and they arose and said, "We're sorry, but initially you didn't add us to this. We're not going to accept, having to lose our finances," because they're saying that about 60% of the investments will be lost if they are included in the domestic debt exchange program. And so they had to extend the deadline again to January 16, 2023, then further to January 31, 2023, and now we're told February 7, 2023. I don't know how long this is going to take. We're hearing an indication that this will be the final deadline extension, but we've heard that before. And just because groups were agitating, the finance minister and his team had to extend the deadline. What's going to happen at this point, we don't know. But what I know for a fact is that these pensioners said, by next Monday, if you still do not exclude us from the domestic debt exchange program, we're hitting the streets. And I will be heartbroken to see pensioners who have worked all their lives, are supposed to have retired now and should be relaxing, hitting the streets just so they can agitate for monies that they have worked for. I think it's very sad, and I do hope that something is done about it.
It's also good that the statement makes references to the 10% that will be paid, and subsequently is under 5 years. But they also make references to the ages for which these bondholders. So if you're 59 and above, it also means that then you qualify within the period of that 10% of 5 years. But if you're below that, it also means that you take a hit. But what is coming as a relief is that government seems to be listening more following its initial belligerent position. So that again beggars the question, what happened to at least consulting these stakeholders widely before you rushed into that press conference? And I remember we all carried that press conference with the International Monetary Fund. And again, we're very instructive to note that the International Monetary Fund Chief of Mission was not forthcoming with responses on whether what we are having the press conference for, that is that going to the board to go and get the approval subsequent to what we've already gotten, we are going to get it at a certain date. So that raised the question whether we're going to meet it within a certain period. Look,
I don't know.
If anybody communicates to you that you're going to get it next month, we're already in the beginning of the new month. So it means that next month, it's not going to be possible. What they've done is, even though the larger teacher unions, etc., who hold also a bulk of pensions have been exempted, the statement does indicate that the old bonds that you hold, if you don't take the new ones, will become untradeable.
Exactly.
As a result of that, they have to use their trustees, etc., to make sure they renegotiate some form of structures. Either they have to be included in the new structure or trade the current bonds that they have with the new ones that have been proposed by government, so that at least they don't lose their money. Because what is going to happen if you decide not to negotiate with government? You are going to be having bonds, how much you have, and they are just going to be worthless.
Exactly.
So somehow they've also been roped in. Does it mean that we're going to see some agitation from these labor unions and the big unions who hold a larger percentage of the employment market in the formal sector? Are we going to see a lot of agitation? So look, where we are, we need the debt exchange program. That is certain. The consultation that we're doing now, should we have done it before?
We should have.
We should have. That is also certain.
We could have avoided all of this. Now, let me let you land. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Okay, so just to read, the revised terms that was in the statement yesterday by the Finance Ministry, they're saying that an affirmation that all individual bondholders are free not to participate is one of them. However, upon a successful DDEP, which is the Domestic Debt Exchange Program, there will be very few of the old bonds in circulation, and likely limits its tradability, which is the points that Roland touched on. In this regard, the government is pleased to make available the following alternative offer to encourage all individual bondholders to participate. 1. All individual bondholders who are below the age of 59 years will be offered instruments with a maximum maturity of 5 years instead of 15 years and a 10% coupon rate. 2. All retirees, including those retiring in 2023, will be offered instruments with a maximum maturity of 5 years instead of 15 years and a 15% coupon rate. And additionally, discussions are being finalized with organized labor and pension fund trustees on a separate arrangement in accordance with the MOU signed with organized labor on 22nd of December 2022 and in line with government's debt management program. So they're encouraging all stakeholders to participate in the Domestic Debt Exchange Program. This is what the pensioners are saying is a better agreement relatively, but again, their members are saying there's no way we're still going to accept this. We want to be exempted completely from it. Let's see how that goes.
Well, there's no running away. There's no way that all of us can run away. So if there are hesitations on their part, it also means that government will have to extend its legs, because the debt is increasing as a country, whether it's the domestic or the external debt. Now, because government cannot go external, we're being forced subsequently to always be making sure that we float more bonds. Or we also have on the market treasury bills. Of course, the last week we were told that it was undersubscribed, if you look at what the market numbers were. But we'll have no option than again go back into the market. A lot of private enterprises already are being crowded out. The Bank of Ghana has increased the base rate as far as borrowing is concerned. That also means that the commercial banks will definitely increase. It's already almost, if not inching to 40% or in excess. It depends on which of the tiers of the finance sector you're borrowing from. And so it also means that it's not making business sense for you to say you want to invest. You better keep your money maybe under the bed, etc. And so we're in a position where people could also make some decisions in the next few weeks. They're going to make decisions on their monies that they have. Should they rush to the banks and try and salvage what they have? Or they try as much as possible trade with treasury bills? Or maybe try and get onto the street and convert it to some US dollars if they can. So, look, all this comes back to the position that was held by the president when he made that address. What it was the 28th or the 29th address, assuring everybody that there will not be haircuts. And all these are part of the structures of haircuts that systematically the Ghanaian who has money, whether as an individual, whether in small quantity or in larger quantity, is suffering from. And at the end of the day, we have to take this. How do we take it? Because if we don't have a certain structure in place and go to the IMF, that will present this to their board, we get nothing. We get nothing.
No, but if you look at it, and there were some suggestions that were made by the individual bondholders. You remember that when they met the finance minister and the entire ministry sometime last week, they set up a technical committee to go and look at ways by which they can, you know, sort of make some money off or come up with some recommendations. And one of the things that they said was that we need to really find a way, you know, to divert loss making from some 17 state-owned enterprises. Remember that there was a statement that was made about how much they had lost as a result of their operations, and that was quite a huge amount of money.
Yes.
Now, aside that, they're saying that review free SHS. Because if you are looking at all these angles, there's a lot of money that can be saved. And they're saying that beneficiaries should be students that patronize senior high school schools in their communities, whilst other students should pay for boarding. So that if, as a parent, you can pay for your child to go to free SHS, do that. And they're saying that the group stated that divesting the 17 non-performing SOEs and reviewing the free SHS alone will provide the government some 2 billion Ghana cedis. Aside that, they are urging that government maintains the 2022 capex level by reducing the non-ABFA, MDA, and foreign finance capex provisions by 50%. They say that will lead to about 10.7 billion Ghana cedis. If you look at individual bondholders, like you said earlier, the total amount that they probably will be contributing to the domestic debt exchange program is 15.5 billion Ghana cedis. They're saying if you do some of these things, then you can take us out because you can make money from other sectors. And I listened to lawyer Martin Pebu yesterday. He said when they made these suggestions, the finance minister said, oh, these are very good suggestions. In fact, we should look at ways by which you can do this. So they are surprised that after agreeing that some of these suggestions are actually very good, they come back and say, we still will not take you out of the domestic exchange.
It actually speaks to the broader context about what government communicated in its budget. And I remember back in November, when government, through the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, read the budget, we had a budget deficit for the year we're in now in excess of 61 billion Ghana cedis. So the question then was raised, how are you going to finance 61 billion Ghana cedis for the remaining financial year if you are not ready to sacrifice?
Yeah.
The government in that budget statement of 2023 does indicate that cutting down on amount spent on workshop, the locations that you undertake these workshops, and then some other cuttings like not buying four-wheel drives, not making essential travels, and making some 30% in excess of cuts as far as Article 71 office holders and other government appointees are concerned. That is a collective promise of undercutting or reducing its expenditure. But that is not it. Last week, the quantum of the propositions did end up from the individual bondholders to reach about 54 billion.
Yeah.
So you take 54 billion out of 61 billion, you get just in excess of some 7 billion that you can also just make do with. Look, when the financial analysts and all of us who tend to look at government expenditure made the conclusion that government has been on a spending spree, it is not to say that government has been spending the money and then taking US dollars or Ghana cedis and putting it or boxing it in individuals' homes, etc. You're giving people free welfare policy initiatives, but they keep asking you, how are we going to pay back? And then those enjoying it also ask the question, when are we going to pay? If you make reference to 2020, we had free water, we had free electricity. By 2021, the reality hit us. We were now made to pay COVID tax or COVID levy. It's still on, as far as the tax handles, when you buy just a direct tax item from any of the shops that we have. So at the end of the day, you ask, if government is being compelled or asked to stop spending, what do you do? You reduce some of these expenditures, and you quickly will have to do one village, one dam, one constituency, $1 million, some of those. You just boldly come to say that, look, I made this promise in my manifesto. I have decided that because of the problems we're facing as a country, we are suspending one village, one dam. We're suspending expenditure on one constituency, $1 million. we're suspending.
Is that still
yesterday?
running?
We launched what? A rent scheme.
Ghana rental.
We're told that
scheme.
we have a capitalization of 30
million. Yeah.
I mean, seriously,
I'm wondering where this money is coming from.
had a discussion about already in the system. People who say they are middle or intermediaries who collect money from people. So just create a portal. 30 million, you're doing down payment. Who needs that? And who is going to benefit from that? When we know that accountability for funds that have been expended, as we've seen with the latest Auditor General report on COVID funds, have always been problematic. Charlie, seriously, are we giving the promise that we are willing to cut costs? It doesn't look like government still thinks that we're some Arabians or one of the states in the Emirates. And so we can just go along and do what? No, it's not possible.
I think what government does is they just hop from one problem to the other looking for a solution. And if this doesn't work, okay, let's leave it and move to this point.